Someone had told me there's this cult, and they'll make anything possible in your life.
I was deeply convinced that we were going to save the world.
It was a transcendent experience.
You feel euphoric.
Everything you do for endless trillions of years depends on what you do with and in Scientology.
They sell it all in the beginning as something quite logical.
You take on a matrix thought that is not your own.
It's so strong that it sticks you like glue.
Controllable, very suggestible.
You just don't see it happening to you. You justify so much.
There is no logical explanation other than faith.
And now, HBO Documentary Films presents It's Me, Hilary, the man who drew Eloise.
It is February 1st, and I have a date. Lena Dunham. Good heavens.
How are you?
Now, you have to go and look in the bathroom mirror. It still needs adjustment.
Slight adjustment, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah, sorry.
I feel very Eloise-y. I can't say this is my most flattering light, even though I love this bathroom. This is my friend Hilary Knight. He is an illustrator, an artist. He drew Eloise, the little girl that lives at the plaza, but he's done a lot of other things as well.
About 2 years ago, a little girl jumped off the pages of a book and into people, into their hearts.
Eloise, Eloise.
Her name was Eloise, you may recall. And with the help of the superb drawings by Hilary Knight once again, and the genuine inventive genius of the author of the Eloise books, Kay Thompson, Eloise is back with us again.
Who is the little girl who lives at the plaza in New York?
That's me, Eloise. I'm 6. I live on the top floor.
I remember having an awareness of Eloise and feeling very strongly that it was mine, which I've now realized is like a pretty universal feeling. Eloise does what she wants when she wants it, and she doesn't brush her hair, doesn't care that her stomach hangs over her skirt. So there's a lot to relate to when you're a slightly weird child. She has a sense of place and a sense that she deserves to be where she is.
One of the things that I loved about it, I'm sure all children did, was the fact that the parents weren't there. She just has the run of the place, and the place she has the run of is the plaza. This was glamorous. Now, it was meant to be glamorous as the plaza, but truthfully, adulthood seemed glamorous compared to childhood.
I think Eloise was a feminist primer for me. When you're little and you're female, you don't yet know that, like, the world is not always on your side. But then if you read Eloise, you're, like, more equipped to turn up your nose in the face of all that.
She's a little Napoleon. She's not, like, a little cutie pie. Eloise needs to be played by, like, Paul Giamatti. Like, the spirit of Eloise is not in a little blonde girl. She could be so unlikable, but she's not because the illustrations are so appealing.
Eloise!
That's me, Eloise!
I grew up in New York City. I'm still there. You can romanticize a lot of things you thought were so great in the past, but my childhood was just an incredible adventure. Fantasy is probably the most important drive in my life. Certain things made incredible impressions on me. From the moment my mother took me to the movies.
Come on, my beautiful. We are going hunting.
Elephant Boy. That became an obsession with me. You could be a little boy, not wear very much, and ride on an elephant. My mother and father were both exceptional artists. My father did mostly aviation. Everything was very precise. My mother did the exact opposite, which was complete fantasies. Stuff that I simply accepted as fact, like birds wearing necklaces. They don't do that. They were making lots of money. They were famous in their field. So I was completely aware every second of the interesting life that they led. I never had any thought of doing anything else but that.
I first met Hilary because a friend of his told him, there's a girl, she's on TV, and she has an Eloise tattoo. He dropped off some signed books and a card that he had written to me. I got home from a trip late at night and it was waiting here, and I just opened on my bed and I just started to cry. Because Hilary's drawings and the look of those Eloise pictures is in my DNA. The creator of the creation that was my part's twin was getting in touch, and it was just a very visceral, chill-inducing experience.
This is my mother's costumes. It was as though I had known her all my life. We totally bonded. This little adorable thing here is myself, and with this little dress.
Square's Path is Hilary's house. It's sort of like the immersive Hilary Night experience. It's the Hilary Night ride at the Hilary Night theme park. There's his Hall of Birds. Many of his books, some of which he wrote, some of which he did not. Tons of artwork by his father and mother. Broadway posters he did. His collection of DVDs and Laserdiscs. And I was struck by the amount of time he spent in life making new covers for them. He literally has put new labels on cans. I think in many ways, Hilary does not want to live in the world as we know it. He wants to live in a curated world that he's created. You can see all of us. Hilary, how many hours of footage do you think you've taken on that camera?
Well, no, I've only had this 2 years, so several thousand. I'm excellent at fucking off. I'm really good at that.
A little bit of banana schnapps. Exquisite.
I love making movies. I do it all the time. I've got a whole story about my cat, Ruffy. Day after Thanksgiving, and I am recreating, with the help of my filmmaker, Wilson Lopez, an immense event that happened. I was napping here after a huge, delicious dinner, and Ruffy jumped up on the bed. And here is a presentation. Thanksgiving gift. Ruffy, look over here.
I mean, yes, Hilary is weird in the most lovable and wonderful way. He's not like everybody else, but he's what we knew as family growing up. I'm sure I knew that my uncle was gay before I really knew what that meant. He was very attuned to us when we were babies and all the way through. I don't even remember thinking that he wasn't a child or he was a child. I just knew that everything he did was about a child's worldview. To me, The real greatness has to do with the way there's so little separation. It's not like he goes to work and then he finishes work and it's done. He lives it.
My first real apartment was this dump on 52nd Street. I got many jobs with magazines, Gourmet and Mademoiselle, and that was exactly the time I met Dee Dee Ryan. She was an editor at Harper's Bazaar. She worked for Deanna Vreeland, and she was a brilliant girl who knew everybody, and if she didn't know them, she would get to know them. She had just met Kay Thompson.
Kay Thompson, Katie Kay Thompson, Kay Thompson, Katie Kay Thompson.
Our next guest, Kay Thompson, has more sheer drive, verve, style, and plain old get up and go than any 20 other singers all rolled together.
She had been a radio star. Once they heard that powerful voice that she had, she became a mainstay on radio. The people who were under contract to MGM, like Garland, were sent to Kay for her mentorship.
For those of you watching wherever you are, gee, you look good to watch.
Kay was very original and eccentric. She would go in Bloomingdale's and just shoot through there, and heads were all turning, saying, "Who was that?" I never knew anybody that was like that.
Kay was an extremely funny, inventive woman.
Did Kay ever describe Eloise to you?
She, for some bizarre reason, started talking to her friends over the phone as this little girl that she called Eloise.
I talked to a friend one day who called. She used to call every Sunday, and she used to be with Harper's Bazaar, and that's a good place to be from. And she called and she said, "Kay, darling, I don't want to talk to you. I'd like very much to speak to Eloise."
So I went to the telephone. I said, "Yes, what is it?"
Now, the same Harper's Bazaar girl said, "You've got to write it down." And she said, "I have the artist who is Hilary Knight, and naturally, you know what happened. I met Hilary Knight."
We went to see Kay Thompson at the Persian Room of the Plaza, and she gave me 6 pieces of paper with things like I have a dog that looks like a cat, you know. We got to work at once. These are the first pencil sketches based on the words that Kay Thompson gave me. All of these things appear in the book as captions or similar ideas. These pre-Eloise drawings were done in the early 50s because I began to work for magazines about this time, and the first published drawing is 52. And here is real origins of Eloise. This was a portrait of a little girl my mother had done, and I lived with this painting for almost all my life, so it seemed a natural relation to a certain other little girl. It was very specifically worked out in the beginning that it was not to be a children's book. It was labeled an adult book. The New York Times never reviewed it because they didn't know what it was. I was 29 when Eloise hit the stand. This was the first real big job I'd had. I think we were both thrilled and mystified that it was so big. After the success of the first one, Kay started Funny Face, a movie with Fred Astaire and Audrey Hepburn. The minute it was finished, Kay said, "Meet me in Paris and we will do the second book."
All of a sudden, the telephone was ringing, and it was the desk saying there's a cable. So I said, "Send it up." Pardon me, send it up. And it was this cable from my mother that said, "You and Nanny get to Paris, France at once to get roses in your cheeks." So we went to Paris.
Paris was a thrilling thing. It was really fun for both of us. We constantly went out and looked at different things. I with my camera and she taking notes. And it was a high point when we were throwing out ideas. She would be writing and talking out loud like Eloise, and I would be sketching. We had such a good time doing it. I think that was all it was, that we both were having fun with collaboration. And it doesn't happen very often. We did 4 books, one right after the other, one a year.
It has been said of Kay Thompson that she is more than an act. She is an experience, and even that is an understatement. Kay Thompson lives on the 13th floor of the Plaza. How is Eloise?
Oh, Jerry, Eloise is marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. You want to go to her room?
Yes, I would like to very
I have
much.
a brand new portrait. I just got today.
Uh-huh.
I think it's heavenly. It was done by Hilary Knight, especially for my birthday. And Hilary did the illustrations in the book, Eloise. Isn't this absolutely perfect?
I had to accept that Kay was the star. You could not really put us in a room together. I would dissolve into the background because of this powerhouse personality.
There's the little girl who lives at the Plaza in New York. That's me, Eloise. I am 6, for Lord's sake.
Sort of a mad nut job that I adored because it was all things that I was not at all. But I could transfer that into drawings.
Who drew that, Hilary? Well, you tell him we think he's the greatest drawer of his kind in the world.
I'll tell him. He'll be glad to know it, too.
Kay started millions of things that were never finished. It's a miracle and amazing that the books that were printed got done. She was so controlling and such a control freak that you know, she wanted to really do it herself, whether it was the voice coming out of somebody or whether it was the pen drawing something. I personally think that Kay began to be resentful that people identified Eloise more with his illustrations than they did with her text.
The things that split us apart accumulated over a period of 5 years. I sense this realization on her part that she would have liked to have done everything. She had mysteriously left America, took up and took off. So she called me up and she said, we should do another book about Eloise taking a bath. She would get up very late, and then we would work all afternoon. I would go home exhausted, sleep, come early in the morning, and things that the night before had been so great had a piece of paper ripped out with a unique form of rubber cement pasted onto my drawing. And it was destructive to me, more than I can say.
What was the process of getting over that like? Did it involve diving into other work?
Well, it took a while. When I got back to New York, she had come back from Rome and she said, you know, we should really finish this book. Why don't I come over to your apartment? And we put some papers down and previous work, and I started to draw. And her hand came over and took my hand in hers and pushed the pencil around. And I thought, that's it. That was the end of our relationship. I never spoke to her again. I was forbidden to draw Eloise on my own. I remember Kay said, my business manager has got a little paper he'd like you to sign. It never occurred to me that within these papers I was signing something that would block my real participation in this book for the rest of my, I hope not the end of my life, but so far it has. It was demoralizing not being able to continue drawing Eloise.
He was crushed. I mean, it was his baby. as much as it was Kay's. Of course, he's aware that Eloise is the most famous thing that he ever did, even though there's great work. I mean, God, how many books has he illustrated for other people? And then there's a whole collection of books that he's both written and illustrated. Not to mention the theater posters. And he invested it with an enormous amount of movement, emotion, and wit. But in the end, everybody wants Eloise.
He made something that lasted. Almost nothing lasts. He made a wonderful thing, that endures, and that is really rare.
I had lots of manuscripts come my way about little dogs living in hotels and little boys living in hotels. And I never wanted to do that. No, I always tried to do something that was totally different. Partly with this ominous thing over me from Kay, from this little paper, you can't draw anything that looks like this girl. I mean, I kept going, but much less well off. Okay. Gingerly going into the cameos. I met Phoebe 20-some years ago.
My fans have kind of an
I'm going to sell this video to your suitors for enormous sums of money. I'm attracted to a powerful woman. Kay is a major example. So is Lena. And Phoebe. I mean, of all people, Phoebe is Eloise. I think probably completely mad, but has never been committed. But no madder than I am. And that's, those are the people that make life a lot more interesting.
There was a place where all of the artists used to hang out called Bobby Van's. Truman Capote hung out there, George Plimpton. That's where I met Hilary. That's where I first remember him. And he came with an Eloise book. On the front page, there's Eloise looking at me, and she's saying, "Good Lord, it is me, Eloise." And from that moment, we became very close friends. It has been such a gift for me to see the power and inventiveness of Hilary's creative output. Sometimes I think he thinks I am Kay, and I'm not. She certainly stiffed him financially. When you're an artist, there are always going to be peaks and troughs in the career for everyone. And Hilary has found a way of making himself happy on a very light diet. And he's living like a princess on air.
When I came on the job, only the original Eloise was published, because Kay didn't want the books published except for the very first book. And then when she died, and her estate said, these books are fabulous. Why aren't they available? And so suddenly, there's a huge Eloise renaissance. We had the pink and black ball at the Plaza, and there was a new license holder who was going to do all this wonderful upscale merchandise. It was quite the scene.
Are you filming that?
Yes, you bet. May I pan at the dress?
Do a pen. I can't quite get skewer me around. Are you happy now? This is your night. You've done it. Somehow you did it. You've tricked fate into...
And with us this morning is the artist whose drawings first gave life to Eloise. Hilary Knight joins us from where else? The Plaza Hotel.
Good morning.
Were you surprised by its phenomenal success?
I was surprised and delighted. It's the first book I've ever done. I became some other person. It was very weird. Eloise remains and will always remain 6 years old. Of course, I'm thrilled by it, to really get that attention.
It was so fun to reread these books again, get reacquainted with little Eloise.
I think he felt freed. And there was, you know, a sense of renewed hope, like this is all going to be okay, and I really am going to get to do what I want to do, and I don't have to fight Kay about this. And he was drawing like mad.
Explain where we are right now.
We are in the customer color room at Lakebrook Manufacturing, and we're about to see the last side of our last form of Eloise Takes a Bath.
Hilary wanted to resurrect Eloise Takes a Bath because he and Kay had done so much work on it. Pages and pages of material. My role on Eloise Takes a Bath was not only to be the editor, it was also to make sure that the estate were pleased with the book. So there was a tremendous balancing act that had to be done throughout this process. It was not easy. Eloise is an imp. She's an imp of the perverse. And so her little 6-year-old self inserts itself in every Eloise endeavor. And that's Kay's legacy.
The chair Kay gave me for my birthday, and this portrait that I blew up. And she probably will be watching us. I wanted to do more Eloise books without Kay. And I got this idea of an agent calling Eloise that because she had created the sensation, the bath book, that she is now really famous. We had a big meeting, and they said, "This is great. Your drawings are perfect. We just have to change a few words." That was the beginning, and it never got any better. October 14th, I am expecting a conference call about Eloise in Hollywood. See previous tape for preliminary calls. We can't just keep doing the same thing all the time. And that's why Kay lost interest in it and pulled the books, because she thought they weren't as good, because I think she felt that she was just rehashing everything. So the older I get, I want complete control. I want to direct everything, including this production we're working on right now. You know, they're so negative about me, which is so fucking ridiculous, because it doesn't make any sense. It's something that begrudgingly, I went along with it. I didn't really like what I was doing, and I got a lot of resistance from the estate. I am 77 years old. I've been working at this book for 50 years, and I know more than they do. And I am very uncomfortable because I've been totally separated from them. And they have got a preconceived notion about my contribution. Finally, I was fired, yeah, and somebody else redrew it. I just hate seeing something that I was so closely involved with being so amateurishly produced. Makes me angry, really. Why I am here, why not let me do lots more things?
When Hilary started working, he was young. So he signed a contract that didn't give him the kind of rights, control, or access that you would want. And whether you're a sweet person or an angry person, that would breed resentment. And I think it has. In many ways, this is a love story between Hilary Knight and Kay Thompson. These two people got divorced and they were fighting over custody of their child, and that child was Eloise. I think Hilary would like to believe that he could write those books on his own, just like I think Kay wanted to believe that she could illustrate those books on her own, but that's not what was happening. The great work was made when they put their heads together. So not only is he missing the opportunity to draw Eloise, he's missing the relationship because Kay wrote the words that he wanted to draw. Hilary has faced so many setbacks in his creative life, has never stopped him from working.
One day, one of the frogs hopped up and went up into my pool. I thought, here is the perfect mini 10-minute musical sequence, Technicolor, the way I had seen movies as a child. So I said, I am going to be the director of this great film. It's a story of a frog who has jumped out of the pool, looks down into the pond and sees this glorious goldfish. And underneath the goldfish is Phoebe, rising from the waters. And it looks like a little children's book, which it may become. All right. Our camera crew. The frog is almost ready. Phoebe is preparing.
Oh my God.
Hooray! You look beautiful. Phoebe, we're gonna have to force Phoebe to hold her head still, even though it's a very dynamic head. How's that feel for you?
Harder. So you can see, these are the eye holes here? Okay.
Is there webbing in the frog toes?
Oh my goodness, there are little marbles in there.
Oh my God.
That he painted.
Look at that.
That's amazing.
And he put marbles in the toes.
Where's the frog?
Frog's here.
You want to sit in the chair, put this foot back, and your personal's somewhat disguised.
Okay, is this what you want, Hilary?
That's the way I drew it.
Oh, that's the way you drew it. The drawings must become reality.
As long as the dynel stays in place.
As long as Phoebe keeps her vagina under wraps.
Does this look innocent?
Action.
His mind almost ornaments what he's seeing. It's almost like he's drawing on top of it.
He's froggy, froggy, frog on a boggy, boggy bog.
In his version, Phoebe's 20-year-old Phoebe. Wilson is actually a frog. I had to really let go of the part of me that was like, Wilson's frog foot is made of a dish glove and it's falling off.
Hippity hop, hip hop frog.
Then I realized that is sort of the ultimate realization of his dream, is that he's turned all the people he admires into these fairy tale figures.
He's a hip hop frog.
Beauty and grace.
One of the things that I feel like I've learned from him is that play is important. Play is part of how you prepare to work. He does it much more obviously than a lot of people do.
Okay, now remember, you're going to go around there.
But I think that has given him some resilience over the years.
Okay, a very innocent, very sweet kiss.
It's a little bit of childhood thinking, you know. You can create a marriage between a frog and a nymph in your own backyard if you want to.
Hilary's work and aesthetic has had a more lasting impact on me and a more formative impact on me than anything else. It's not like he meant to be a secret, he just is one. And he still has this intense desire to make work.
This is Eloise.
Eloise.
This is Eloise. We love your book.
Good. I'm so used to most people not knowing about anything except Eloise. That sort of disappoints me. I never have stopped working, never. I just feel there's a lot more to do.